may find the following disturbing. Discretion is advised.
The Bears.
Because of the way they play the nickel corner here, and the nickel corner plays 88-85% of the snaps. He's got to be like part linebacker.
The Bears.
When you're in the scouting room, there's going to be differences of opinion.
The Bears.
Once coaches get involved, of course, they've got their own opinions about what fits best for what they want to do, and that could be drastically different than what the scouts say.
Well, you're looking at traits, and remember when he tested very, very well.
The Bears.
One thing good about Kevin, he's been with 2 other organizations, as well as being the commissioner of the Big Ten. He's been around.
The Bears.
With Greg Olson, Jerry didn't want to get rid of him. I didn't want to get rid of him. Nobody wanted to get rid of him. One guy wanted to get rid of him. Mike Martz, because Mike Martz didn't know what the hell to do with him. We tried to talk Lovey out of hiring Mike Martz for a month and a half. He's playing zone, but number one, he doesn't get enough depth with the drop. But
right.
Who the hell's going? How many times does a 305, 310-pound defensive tackle drop into coverage, especially in a key situation?
The Bears.
Greg, why are teams wrong on quarterback evaluation so often?
Number one, it's a hard position to evaluate. There's probably not as many real good quarterback evaluators as there needs to be.
The Bears. The Bears. The Bears.
Welcome, everyone, to a fresh episode of GTF here on Victory Monday. My name is Aldo Gandia, and we've got a full week of programming despite the bye week. We are going to be on every day except Thursday night leading up to this bye week. Let's welcome in our star of the show, Greg Gabriel. Greg, how are you, my friend?
Always good after a win.
Absolutely. You
The only thing I miss is those meals at Hallis Hall.
What'd you be having on one of those meals? What would they lay out?
Well, I'm sure it's different now because they got their own, they got their own kitchen now.
Right.
We used to cater back in the day, and it'd be like Wildfire one week and maybe Popeyes another week or something. Popeyes was usually on a Friday, because Lovey liked having Popeyes on Friday for the players.
A Southern fried chicken, absolutely. Welcome to everyone in the chat. More and more people pouring in. Our guest is going to join us in about 5 or 10 minutes. But first, I wanted to get Greg's reaction to yesterday's win. It wasn't pretty at times, Greg, but it sure was effective. Another win in the column.
I got to be honest. I always felt that they were going to pull it out.
I did too.
It's close. They didn't give up really any points or very little points in the second half. And I just said, you know what? They're going to be able to pull this one out.
Yeah.
And which is what they did.
They did indeed. And it was complimentary football. Again, it was the special teams contributing, the defense contributing, and the offense coming to life in the second half. Guess who just popped
the offense didn't come to life in the first half. I mean, they got
that was
defense was handing them the ball on a silver platter, 3 turnovers, and all of them on the right side of the 50-yard line, couple almost in the red zone. And they got 2 field goals out of it. But hey, go back to the drawing board on that and get things fixed and get ready for Washington.
Indeed. Guess who just joined us backstage?
My man, Joe Fortenbaugh.
There he is, Joe Fortenbaugh of ESPN. How are you, Joe?
What's up, fellas? Can you see and hear me okay?
Yes, indeed. Absolutely.
I'm in one of these here at ESPN. We have these like little soundproof rooms that you can go into. They're basically porta potties without the toilet. So that's where I am right now. I'm in a porta potty without the toilet, and you get lulled into this false sense of security because I'm loud by nature. I'm a radio guy. So I'll be very loud and demonstrative, thinking everyone walking by can't hear me, but they all look at me and can hear me through this thing. So it's very unnerving, but it's great to be with you guys. How's it going?
Hey, Joe, it's good to see you. Been a while, buddy.
It has. Thanks so much for bringing me on. I see we're breaking down Bears Raiders from yesterday, which a couple mistakes in that game overall, but relatively clean football game.
Indeed.
Hey, a win is a win. I got to see, people probably don't know our connection. Joe and I go back to probably 14, 15 years ago.
Yep.
At the National Football Post. And I'll tell you what, when you look at the stable of writers the NFP had back then, we had Dan Pompey, Brad Biggs, Andrew Brandt, Matt Bowen. I mean, we had Aaron Wilson, some really, really good writers.
Lombardi, who's at UNC right now with Belichick.
That's right.
Great cast. Hey, Joe, I'm going to go into the background, collect some questions from people in the chat, and then you and Greg can take over the show here for the next 20 minutes or so. Have fun.
I'm looking forward to it. Thank you very much.
So, Joe, I know, just for the audience, after the NFP, you were doing radio in San Francisco. Then I think you went to Vegas and were doing radio, right?
Yeah, so when I was working with NFP, we started that website in 2008. I ended up moving to Vegas in about 2011, August 2011. I had nothing going on in my life. I wasn't married. I didn't have kids. I wasn't dating anyone. I wanted to get back out west, but I wanted to write more about sports betting. I wanted to cover it. I enjoyed betting sports, but I didn't know anything about it. So I wanted to move out there. I went to law school in San Diego, so I wanted to get back out west. And the thought process was, let's meet all the bookmakers. Let's meet all the pro bettors. Let's build a network. Let's learn how to really do this thing. So I was doing that from 11 to 14, during which time I'm doing a lot of radio hits. Program director in San Francisco hears me doing the radio hits, hires me to come up to San Francisco to do a morning radio show. So I start doing that from 14 to 20. And during that time, I'm still covering sports betting. I'm doing podcasts. I'm writing about it. Well, what ends up happening is PASPA, the Professional and Amateur Sports Protection Act, gets rolled back by the Supreme Court in 2018. I believe it was May. And that opens up the floodgates for the states to legalize sports betting. And the day it happens, everyone who knows me is blowing me up like, this is what you've been waiting for. You've spent years covering this stuff. And I was so focused at that point on building a radio career, I'd almost kind of forgotten that this was a possibility. But it opened up the door for a part-time gig with ESPN, which I was doing from my apartment in San Francisco. And then they hired me full-time in 2020, went back to Vegas, was there for 3 years, and then they moved us all to Bristol because when the relationship with Caesars ended, we lost our studios that we had on the Strip. So they figured, let's just bring the whole show back east. So I'm originally a Northeast guy. It's nice to be home. My wife, as you know, is from East Aurora, huge Bills fan. So we're back amongst family and all that stuff.
She was a Buffalo girl.
I thought you did know. Yeah, she went to UB. Wow. She's from East Aurora. So like that whole side of the family. So I have 2 boys. My oldest, huge Bills fan, huge Josh Allen fan. My youngest follows me, huge Eagles fan. So we've got the only 2 teams in the NFL that are undefeated right now. If they could ever meet in a Super Bowl, it'd be nice, but we've already gotten a couple in Philly. Like for me, I would love to see her and the Bills fans get one.
Oh, same with my daughters. My daughters are season ticket holders. So they're at the game every week and they love it. They're huge Bills fans. That's why I started my career with the Bills. And before that, I was a season ticket holder for 14 years. So,
well, it would be great to see them close out the last year at the Ralph by winning the AFC on that field, go on and win the Super Bowl, and then come back and open up the new building next year.
Oh, for sure. So from say the Vegas point of view, because I know like Big Z always puts out a thing like Sunday night, according to my guy on the Strip, Joe Fortenbaugh. And what was I don't even know what the spread was yesterday. What was the spread? Vegas.
It was an interesting one because it opened with the Bears as a small favorite. They were -1.5 and immediately moved the other way to Raiders -1.5. And I know some people were asking like, wow, I wonder, did that have to do with an injury? Like what do they know about the Raiders? The reality is it seems far more interesting than it probably is. The opening number was just probably off. It was a bad number. And the reason for that is maybe the Bears were a little overinflated coming off the Dallas win. It's a Bears team that's certainly headed in the right direction. The coaching looks a lot better. The quarterback play's coming around. There's a lot to get excited about, but it's one thing to win a road game. It's another thing to be laying points on the road. And I think that was the thing that stood out where people thought, all right, Bears still have some defensive issues. We can get the Raiders at plus 1.5. We'll jump on that. So it flipped, but essentially where it was a coin flip game. And I think that's how it played out. It was a very tightly contested game. Both teams had a chance. Bears ended up capitalizing. So good number, in my opinion.
You know, I had a friend who was at the game. He used to be my neighbor. He moved out to Vegas about 4 years ago. And he said it was about a 50-50 crowd.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I was there. So when we moved down, that was the year they opened the stadium. But Mark Davis didn't allow any fans in. This was, of course, during COVID. Nevada said you could have maybe 30 or 40% capacity, but Davis said he didn't want to have the stadium open up with only some fans. He wanted to be able to open it up with everybody, which was kind of cool. So they waited a year, and it's a great place to see a game. It's obviously an all-time destination to travel to see your team play on the road, but that's the biggest problem for the Raiders is it's the same problem the Chargers had for years with everyone using San Diego as the travel destination. So that stadium's always going to be overtaken by the opposing team. And of course, it's going to happen with the Bears because you have so many Chicago residents that when they retire, they go to Arizona or they go to Las Vegas. So you've already got a big Chicago community. I mean, every Cubs game is on TV locally there. So you have this built-in fan base that no doubt was going to take over the stadium.
Yeah, it looked like it. It sounded like it. So where do you see from a betting perspective? Because I don't do any betting. I used to play the little, parlay slips before I got in the league. And since then I stopped. So I like my money. I don't want to give it away because I'd probably lose. Where do you see them going as far as a good bet, bad bet, in between bet?
So let's look at this. I'm going to bring it up right now. We have updated season win totals, meaning betting the over-under on how many games a team's going to win. Now, for the Bears, before the season started, it was 8.5, meaning if you bet the over, you needed 9 or more wins, which means a winning record, 9-8 or better. And to bet the under, for that to cash, you would have needed an 8-9 record or worse. Right now, that's since been adjusted to 7.5. So it's come down 2 wins. And I think the thought process is that while the Bears are showing signs of growth, they're not as good as maybe they were originally thought to be coming into the year. And then when you factor in injuries like Jalen Johnson on defense, that's going to play into the number as well. So that's where they are. What the preseason view of the Bears is different than where we are now. We've lowered their power rating. We've lowered our overall output or view on them. But that doesn't mean if you're a Chicago fan, you should be dejected in any way. You just want to see this thing move in the right direction. And if you think that they're better than that record indicates, then you obviously can find some opportunity going in the other direction. I found it fascinating. We're going to have this tonight, and I have to look this up because I'm not positive as to which team it is. Or no, it was last night with Green Bay. They blew it. But the 4 teams that are going on the bye next week. Traditionally, betting on a team before they go on a bye is a reasonably good bet. It hits close to 60% of the time. We were 3-0 yesterday going into the Packer game. The Bears won and covered their spread. I think Houston goes on the bye, and whoever the third one was, it may have been, I can't remember, but they were 3-0 straight up and against the spread. It was perfect, and then the Packers failed to get it done. So the Bears fell into that category. Teams doing a very good job right before they go on their bye.
But generally coming out of the bye, it's not as good a bet, right?
Well, it can end up being overinflated is what we would say. So there are many ways you can handicap a football game. There are a lot of guys that it's all about an analytical approach to finding value. Teams that, an example of that would be a lot of the professionals bet Atlanta over Minnesota in week 2. That was the Sunday night game. Falcons were on the road. Now, right now, it might not seem all that crazy given what we've seen, but at the time, you have to remember, Atlanta blew the game against Tampa Bay in week 1, and Minnesota came back to beat the Bears on Monday night. So people are thinking, all right, J.J. McCarthy and the Vikings, this team is legit. Falcons stink like usual. There are ways in which you should study a box score that will illuminate you as to how the game really played out. Sometimes the final score isn't indicative of that. I don't want to call a team lucky for winning a football game, but not all wins are created equal. And the Falcons or the Buccaneers were very fortunate in that first game, and the Vikings were too. So you came into that matchup and you realized it was a good buy low point on Atlanta, and they went out and won and covered the game. So there's an analytical approach, but there's also what's called a situational approach that you factor in as well. Maybe it's a team with extra rest, or a team on a short week, or a team on a tough travel spot, or a team in a look-ahead game. College football Friday night, that's what lined up for Virginia. You're at home. It's a Friday night game. You're catching a touchdown. The fans are going to go nuts. You've got a pretty good team. Here comes Florida State the week before they play Miami. So maybe they're looking ahead. Boom, Virginia handles them in overtime. This is a long-winded way of coming all the way back to your point on coming off the bye. That is normally viewed as a very favorable spot, especially for a coach like Andy Reid. But sometimes that gets over-factored into the point spread, thus creating an opportunity to bet the other way, like with Andy Reid. Andy Reid, for the first 14 or 15 years of his career, was something like 14-1 or 13-2 against the spread coming off a bye. He was one of the best, but everyone knew this. Everyone talked about it, and eventually the point spread became so inflated as a result of that, I should go like this, that it became more valuable to bet against him, and even though he'd win the game, you wouldn't cover the spread. So long-winded way of saying, yes, coming off the bye, beneficial to some coaches who know how to utilize that extra time, but some coaches do not.
Okay, let's switch to college, because the thing that amazes me is I think teams are so overrated. Many teams are so overrated at the beginning of the year, and the polls. I put no weight in the polls whatsoever, the early polls, because they're based on last year, and college teams more so now than ever. You got a 50% turnover in personnel because of the transfer portal, graduations, and whatever. So, what's the best if you're going to bet a college game early? What's the best approach to it?
I think you just laid out the single most important factor with handicapping teams before the season starts. In the pros, we have an idea of how to rate these teams. We have a pretty good sense. And then we make tweaks based on roster improvements or players that are lost, coaching changes. The schedule's obviously very big. Guys now really dig into the rest discrepancy. If whoever's playing on Monday night tonight, when we go out to Sunday, they're likely facing an opponent that has a one-day edge. Well, guys now add all that up throughout the course of the season, and they'll find teams that are +9 in rest, -7 in rest, and that'll factor in. So with college football, we don't have that. We have exactly what you just said. We have this old, outdated, archaic system where we just rank teams based on what we saw the year before. And, if you're Clemson and Dabo, you've been around for a while, so we're going to give you more credit than we would maybe some young upstart we haven't seen. And you'll get these polls and you'll get these prices as a result. And then you go into the season and it's wildly different. Clemson is nowhere near what people thought they would be before the season started. LSU, you could say, is nowhere near what they would be. Penn State, like usual, you had a bunch of people lining up, and I'm a Penn State grad. I hate to say it, but this year was supposed to be James Franklin's best team. Top to bottom, look at the roster. Drew Aller's coming back. They should go to – the schedule's so soft, and then they play one good game, and the same thing as always happens. Aller in a big spot like the Notre Dame game throws the turnover late. So with college, you have to be very good at assessing the portal, very good at assessing the coaches, and understanding, Texas Tech was a team that spent, I think, the second most amount of money in the offseason on the portal. So that was a team that caught a lot of people's attention because they upgraded pretty much at every position except quarterback because they brought the same guy back. You have to be so much more diligent, but that creates so much more opportunity. There's a saying in sports betting, the more chaos, the better. Most amateur sports bettors, people who do it recreationally, they want everything to be calm. They want all the starters playing, no injuries, everything's fine, no weather concerns. That's the best case scenario for the sports book because the sports book can hang the sharpest possible price when that's the situation. What you want is chaos. You want a guy getting ruled out of an NBA game 40 minutes before it starts because what they'll do is they'll adjust the prop price for the guy who steps into his spot. All of a sudden the backup's points prop might go from 8.5 points to 15.5. But what they'll be late to adjust is the third stringer who steps up into the backup role. That's where you find the opportunities. Chaos is a good thing for sports bettors because the sports book isn't able to quickly account for everything that's happening in these situations.
Yeah, but at the same time, the bettors really got to be up to date on what's going on.
Yes. Yeah, you have to be on top of everything. So if you're not watching all of that, you're casually showing up 15 minutes before kickoff and placing a bet, just know that you are at a major disadvantage. That line has been shaped into the best possible price, and you're fighting an uphill battle. It's like sitting down at a blackjack table. You might think luck is on your side, but there's a built-in house edge in every one of those games. The moment you sit down, if you don't know how to count cards, the longer you play, the better the chance the casino has of getting your money. You'll notice this scam in Vegas now. Casinos are going to roulette tables with a 0, a 00, and now a 000. Most people will see that and just think, it's one more number. But that's now going from 38 to 1, your chances of hitting, to 39 to 1. And when you extrapolate that out over years and multiple tables and multiple casinos and multiple people, that's a big edge for the casino where they rake in additional profit.
I don't know how
did you think
all this time.
Did you think we'd be
do a great job with
today,
it.
Greg? Did you think we'd be talking roulette Did you think we'd be talking roulette today?
No. I don't even there's one thing I know, blackjack. That's it.
It's a fun game. It's a fun game. You got to know how to count a little bit, though, if you want to have a chance. But here's the thing. They've gotten so good at identifying people that count cards that they can wipe you out immediately and keep you from playing.
What I used to do when I was on the road a lot is there's a lot of these Indian casinos right on the side of the highway. So I'm driving. I said, okay, I'm going to pull over. I'm going to say you have $200 in my pocket. If I lose the 200, I'm done. Never reach in your pocket again. If I double the 200, I'm done. And I always played by that rule. And, so I always, sometimes I won the 200. Sometimes I maybe won a little less, but I didn't really lose money doing it that way. And that's the only way I did it. Very little fraction. I wouldn't call myself a gambler, and I haven't done that in years.
It's a smart rule. It keeps you from getting into trouble because ultimately the last thing you want is to have an NFL Sunday that goes south and then it affects your Monday and your Tuesday. Like, you're going to lose. You got to be able to handle that. And the best way to handle it is to keep it within reason so that it doesn't affect your emotions moving forward. That's a really important part of this that they don't really teach anybody. People get down and then they chase their losses and it creates an awful situation.
No, you start chasing and you're going to be chasing for the rest of your life.
Correct.
Joe, you talked a little bit about your past. Levante wants to know how long you've been doing odds and in particularly for football.
So I started writing about it in 2011. So I actually started covering the industry from then. I started betting, when I was younger. Like Greg talks about the parlay slips. Like, we had friends when we were in junior high who had older brothers who had the parlay slips. So you would get all the college games and pro games, and you'd put $5 on, and you'd circle like 7, and if it hit, it paid like $70 or whatever. So that was kind of how I got started. I didn't sharpen up until I moved to Vegas and started learning this. And I'm not a professional sports bettor. I want to make that very clear. But I've been around it long enough that I understand some of the tricks of the trade. I have a better chance of winning than I did back in the day, but I'm still prone to plenty of mistakes. I'll still walk into plenty of traps just because there are certain spots that I like and things that I can't get out of my own way. But covering it in 2011, betting since way before that, but sharpened up when I moved to Vegas, especially when I came back the second time and I plugged right back in with that circle and started doing what I'm doing for a living. I've really picked up and gotten better on the analytical end, I would say. I learned the situational stuff. I learned the nuts and bolts of the business. But once I really learned how to dive into the numbers and the analytics of it, it improved my my probabilities.
And Joe, there's been a lot of opinions about what sports betting, particularly online sports betting, has done to the sport, to any sport, but let's keep it to football, and that it may not be good because players now have easy access to betting and so forth. What's your point of view on sports betting and whether it's good for the game or not?
So regarding the players, even before legalization, and Greg can probably speak to this as well, don't gamble was very clear all throughout the facilities. Like, this has always been a very important rule. And I know that they've lightened up a little bit where you're allowed to bet as long as it's not on your own sport. So if you're a baseball player and you want to bet football games, not necessarily a problem. The players ultimately have to be responsible for themselves. You have to understand, like everyone in society, we all have certain rules with the jobs we're in, things we can do, things we can't do. You know, if I work for Disney, the idea of me just lighting up a bong on the internet probably wouldn't play very well, but that's the type of thing that other people can do on their streams that people might get a kick out of. So we all have rules we have to follow. I would say the one big misconception is that the legalization of sports betting has led to more corruption. It's actually led to more regulation. If you look in the NBA with that Jonte Porter scandal, where he was checking into a game and then he'd leave with an injury and then all the under bets would pay out. And a quick background on that is, you know, his prop for assists might be 3.5. Well, if you don't play in the game, the bet is null and void. But if you play even a second, now the bet is action. So if you're in there and you play 8 minutes and then you get hurt and you check out of the game, all the unders are going to pay there. So that was kind of like the way that you can beat that. The thing is, no one's going to get away with that. And the players need to understand that, because here's what happens. Sportsbooks have a ton of information, most notably how much money is being bet. And on a player prop, for example, for an average NBA player, and I'm just going to make a number up, the sportsbooks understand that that prop might see $10,000 worth of action on a given night. Some nights it might be up to 12, some nights it might be down to 9, but you're generally seeing about 10K in action. If you suddenly see $250,000 on an under, that's going to raise some red flags, and it's going to raise red flags immediately. So some of these guys think they can get away with it once or twice and no one will notice. That'll never happen, because too much money will be bet. It will immediately raise a red flag. That will get reported to the league. An investigation will start, and you'll get nailed, especially if you left under mysterious circumstances. This used to be a thing in tennis. Tennis was easy to corrupt because you could get someone at a minor tournament to go out, play a set, and then retire with a hamstring injury. And it just looks like, oh, a player got hurt, no big deal. But the other side would be cashing in. And that was the way you fixed the tennis match. But so much money would be bet globally on these situations, it would raise major red flags. So I think that's the big misconception, is that the proliferation of sports betting has caused more of these issues. In fact, all it's done is lead to improved regulation.
Excellent. J2K wants to know, what is the vibe over at ESPN regarding the Bears? Are they warming up to the idea that Caleb can become a great quarterback?
Depends on who you talk to, but most of the guys around here really like the vibe of the Bears. I think we were all most people were a little bit further out on them when the season started, and then you saw the Minnesota game and you thought to yourself, all right, same old Bears. And then what was week 2? Someone refresh me. What happened in week 2?
Detroit, they got killed.
Detroit. Okay. So they get smoked by the Lions, and now all of a sudden everyone's thinking, all right, this is going to be a complete disaster. Williams is the guy. Like, people tend to overreact. That's why we have Overreact Monday, but that's where recency bias can help you if you understand how not to overreact or to take advantage of the overreactions. Most people like Caleb's play. They think he's coming along under Ben Johnson. They have a lot of respect for Ben Johnson. And now that the team's winning a little bit, it looks like it's moving in the right direction. So I'd say the vibe is relatively positive. There isn't a lot of Bears slander around here.
Excellent. D. Starren has a great question. What effect do the officiating crews have on the line? I see more advice this year about taking the officials' crew, taking into effect the crew that's officiating the game.
So that's a great question, because that's an angle that a lot of handicappers study, especially in baseball with umpires. Certain umpires are more hitter friendly. Some are more pitcher friendly. So when you're betting your over-unders, you want to study the umpires. With NFL officiating crews, some throw a lot of flags, some throw fewer, and that can affect the totals as well. So when it comes to player props and over-unders, that's where you want to study that. I don't know so much of a side perspective, like this crew really likes the home team. Sometimes that might happen, and you say, how could that be possible? Maybe you're being influenced by the crowd a little bit, but you want to find the crews that are known for throwing more flags or throwing far fewer flags, so you understand how to bet the game a little bit more. Because if you got a crew that's not calling holding, then guess what? You're going to be able to move the ball down the field a little bit easier. You might get some more points. That game might be an over. So that's the type of thing sports bettors analyze. Really good ones look into the details like that.
Yeah, how do they get the stats on the crew?
So there are different websites you can use, but mostly you just have to go game by game. I don't think that some people may have figured out how to automate this, but you'll know who the crew is for each game, and then you'll go into the game and you'll see what the score was, what the penalties were, and then you just build out your database. And you'll notice this one crew has an average of about 9.6 penalties enforced per game. They tend to call a lot more holding, and then you look at the over-unders and you track it, and you'll say, oh, look at this. It's 7-2 to the under in his last 9. This is an under crew. And the more data you can compile, the better a representation you can have. This is difficult to use in the Super Bowl because, as you guys probably know, like that's not a normal crew that works together. That's an all-star crew. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Joe, we told you 20 to 25, and it's been 25, and I know you're pretty busy at ESPN. But, hey, thank you a lot for coming on. Really appreciate it, buddy.
You guys are the best. Thank you so much for having me. And to everyone who was kind enough to submit some questions, I really appreciate that. Would love to come on again. Greg, reach out anytime. It's been my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Take care, Joe. Great job. Bye-bye.
Yeah, boy.
What a great guy. What a great guy. And he will be on ESPN2 at 3 p.m. Central on the ESPN Bet Live. They're on every day, but sometimes the times change. So check them out today at 3 p.m.
He's on multiple shows, and then a lot of times they show on ESPN, and then they show it like an hour later on ESPN2.
Yes.
Or something. So, some of the things are on multiple times in one day.
Yeah, I often catch him on Get Up, the Mike Greenberg show in the morning, and he's a very talented guy, Greg. He is very talented.
We were working at the NFP. We used to do these videos, Bowen, myself, and there was the one draft guy we had, Wes Bunning, back in the day, and he would act like as the MC, and he was a natural. So when he got into radio, you knew that's where he was destined to do that. Because he had me on his show a few times out in San Francisco when he was a host, and he had the morning show in San Francisco, and he was excellent.
Yeah, outstanding. ESPN got themselves a good one there. And as Bruce,
what's funny is that I follow him on X, and there's a picture with him and like the kids and the dog, and they're out in the snow last year, and I didn't know he had moved to Bristol, so I said, that ain't Vegas. And he goes, no, this is Bristol. He said they moved me.
Oh, wow. That's a big life change. Hey, Lutz, the reporter with the $5 donation, he says, he sees him on ESPN. Thank you, Lutz, and follow Lutz on X. He's got great advice on betting, although I think he did pick the Raiders to win. So he's not always right like Joe, but he does offer great advice on his column, which is on patch.com, I believe it is. So anyway,
there's the one guy in our little chat that had yesterday, Raiders were the lock of the year.
Yes, I saw that.
You saw what I put to that, don't you?
Yes,
you lose.
That's right. One of the guys from Weekend Sports Betting Tips, our Friday evening show, said that they had the Raiders as the lock. Yeah, that was not a good bet.
Not only lock, it was lock of the year, if you use the wording.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. All right, let's delve into this game. The Bears pull one out. I want to start by playing for you and our audience what Coach Ben Johnson said immediately after the game, how big this win was.
We're building something special here, and I think they're feeling it. Just the belief they have in each other, the belief they have in this coaching staff. I thought it really shone through. This is a huge win for our team. Finding a way in the fourth quarter to come out on top. I just thought that was outstanding for us. So proud of our guys, proud of the locker room. I know it's an ugly game at times. I thought I'd give a lot of credit to the Raiders. They played their tails off, which we knew they would. Coach Carroll is such a good coach, and they have so many good players on their side that it was going to be a dogfight. And they were desperate for a win, and we were desperate for a win as well. And, it came down right to the wire, just like we thought it might. And so, like I said, that's a huge character win for our team, and I just love it for them.
You know what's refreshing about him is he's so darn honest. You can't. I mean, you can listen to some of those pressers, regardless of who it is, and you go, yeah. I mean, got to like last year with Flus, I wouldn't even turn him on. You already knew what he was going to say.
Yep.
Word for word. So you didn't need to see it, but he tells you like it is. He's not afraid to call somebody out. He's very honest about what happened in the game. He can point the finger at himself and blame himself when he needs to. Did you see, and it's getting a lot of play on X, I missed it because I had switched the channel during halftime. And so when I had missed it when they came back in for the start of the second half. But, the interview coming out of the locker.
Let me play it for
you.
Play. Yeah, let me play it for you and our audience, okay? Here it comes, 20 seconds long.
Your offense has struggled to take advantage of those takeaways.
Yeah.
Okay, so what did you tell them to get things going?
That it wasn't our brand of football. We're capable of a lot more, and so we're hitting the reset button here at halftime, and we're going to come back and establish our identity here in the second half.
So you need to change what you're doing.
I don't know. You think so? We're going to be just fine.
The reporter is Aditi Kinkabwala. I apologize if I mispronounced that. She's, I think she covers the Steelers, and she's also on NFL.
She used to do the Steelers for ESPN.
Okay.
The Steelers and the Browns, and she's no longer there. And so she's working. Who did the game? CBS. So she's working for CBS. It's getting a ton of play. In fact, Gruden had his podcast.
I saw that, yeah.
And Gruden was like killing her, and it was actually, if you have that, you ought to play it. It's really funny.
Yeah, I don't have that, unfortunately, but I can find it, maybe share it with you and everyone else before the end of the show.
Under Barstool, I think.
Yeah. By the way, I don't think that he was out of line there. And I've done some reporting in my lifetime. I just think that she took a bad track there in making a value judgment. Her job is to ask questions, not to say you need to do things better. That's I think that is unsettling to a head coach, particularly one who probably doesn't want to do that interview right before the start of the second half. He's got to coach an entire football team. He's calling plays and so forth. Ask your two questions and then get the hell out of there. Don't antagonize him by making a value judgment on how the team played.
You got to change what you're doing.
It's like
that's got to win an award for the stupidest question of the year.
Yeah, I respect Aditi and all the sideline reporters. It's not an easy job, but she dropped the ball there. And the reason I bring that up is because I see some reporters taking shots at Ben Johnson, and it's like, that was totally unprofessional. The way he stared her down at the end and so forth. It's like, you're a reporter. Why don't you focus on what the comments were by the reporter and not the coach's reaction? So anyway, with that, we'll move on.
You know what? The way I took it, like I say, I didn't see it yesterday.
Right.
I saw it really about an hour and a half ago. And I was like, God bless him. That would have been a lot worse.
Yeah. Can you imagine what Parcells would have done to their poor reporter?
It's first of all, I get it. The league wants them to do it.
Yeah.
So they have to do it. But you got to be reasonable, have a good thought out question.
Mm-hmm.
Especially, you're getting your butt kicked coming in from halftime. When you get the home team, you get him coming off the field at the end of half a time. If you're getting your butt kicked, the last thing he wants to do is answer a question. He wants to get in the locker room and try to fix things.
Yeah. OKC Bear Boy says, honestly, I think he took it wrong. I think she was asking if he was going to make changes. Well, then that's the way it should have been phrased. Can you clue us in on what kind of changes you're making?
I think he took it, he kind of threw it back at her. What should I do?
Yeah, right. It was, yeah. And
he worded the question horribly.
Yeah. Eric says, I rewatched it a few times, and I actually think she asked, do you need to change what you're doing? But the do was away from the mic. That could be, Eric. Nonetheless, let's put that behind us. I hope the league doesn't come down on Ben for that.
No way.
If anything, it should be one of the coordinators or assistant coaches or something. I've always thought that maybe the pro football team should have a press secretary and let them answer questions, like the president has a press secretary. That might be a better way to handle this whole thing. Lutz with another donation, it says, at least Ben Johnson's pressers are no longer a flus fatulence contest. That's right. Outstanding. All right, let's talk about the first half of the game, because as you said at the top of the show, Greg, there was a lot of miscues by the offense. The defense did an outstanding job of turning the ball over, giving Caleb and the offense a short field, but things weren't going well. Do you have any clue as to why there was such a rough start for the offense?
Yeah, the Raiders defense played really, really well. Sometimes you can't blame your own team and say, they miscued this, they miscued that, whatever. You got to give the other team credit. The other team really played solid football. That defensive end, he played his ass off.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Max Crosby is an outstanding player. He's been probably one of the three best edges in the league for quite a while. And, he's going against basically a rookie, first-year guy playing in his first game who's got short arms, and he just used his hands so well. So they take him out and they put in Ozzie. Ozzie played pretty well. But then did Braxton get hurt? I know in the second half they come out, they put Benedict over at left tackle and they took Braxton out. I don't know if Braxton was hurt or they just decided to make a change, because I don't know if that was ever spoken about.
After the game, Ben Johnson did say they had planned to give Ozzie some snaps. So
I knew that. He said, I heard that part. He goes, we have planned to play him. The part I didn't know is that, because I'm going to say midway through the second quarter, maybe before that, they put Ozzie at right tackle because Max was just doing a number on Benedict. But then I noticed, beginning of the second half, Benedict's playing left tackle and Braxton's out of the game.
Yeah.
Did they ever address why Braxton was out of the game?
No, not in yesterday's press conference. I did see Braxton go down and get up slowly, and then after that, he was on the sideline with his helmet still on. So I anticipated that he would come back in, but he did not. And so perhaps they were happy with the way the offensive tackles were playing, because in the second half,
Benedict played better on the left side than he did on the right side.
He certainly did.
And you got to give Trapillo. Now, Trapillo got beat a couple times, and Max Crosby is going to beat the best in the business. But overall, Trapillo played him pretty darn well.
Yes, he did. He certainly did. I mean, that was Caleb said after
by
the
fire.
Yeah, Caleb said after the game that he was Max Crosby was the best player he's ever gone up against.
I saw that.
Yeah. So, and for in fact, I think I have that soundbite. Let's listen to Caleb talk about the offensive line.
I think the guys did a great job, to be honest. They got a hell of a player over there. He's probably the best player that I've ever played against so far in my career, and so like I said, they got a hell of a player. And so understanding that coming into the game, trying to get the ball out as fast as possible, get it to my guys, and I think I can do a better job of that early in the game, getting everybody in rhythm. So that's a part of it, but. At the end of the day, that's what happened. We got some guys in there that, it's their first time, playing and suiting up, especially versus a guy like that, and they did a hell of a job. So I'm proud of the guys, especially the way we fought. That's all you can ask for at the end of the day. And now we're 2-2 going into a bye week.
Impressive answer by Caleb there. He's taking accountability about getting the ball out. He's starting to sound like the leader that Ben Johnson is molding him into.
No, he's doing a very good job in those. Now, there's one thing I noticed, and teams, because I think he's had close to a half a dozen balls batted down in 4 games. He's not tall to begin with. He's a little over 6'1", and he doesn't have a real high release point. It's a little bit lower. So if you get your hands up, you're going to knock the ball. I think you're going to see more and more of that. So the offensive linemen got to be cognizant of that and keep the defensive linemen from getting their hands up, chop their hands a little bit as part of your, so they don't get their hands up. Now, Crosby's had one of the blocks, and he's got, real long arms to begin with. He's got like 34.5, 35-inch arms on top of being about 6'5", and he can jump. So, anybody, he's going to knock the ball out of a 6'6" guy, let alone a 6'1" guy. But goddamn, that guy is just so good.
He really is.
You just watch the way he plays. He uses his hand. If you want to see how to use your hands as a pass rusher, just put on a tape of him.
Mm-hmm. Yep. He is like the prototypical edge rusher. There's no doubt about it. With the versatility, he moves in all up and down that line. William says Crosby ran right by Ozzie a couple of times, but offensive tackle play was good overall.
Oh, yeah, no question about it that he beat him. But overall, like what you like to see is when a guy, it's like a corner. When a corner gets beat, you want to see him come back. Short memory, don't worry about it. And that's what Ozzie was like. Okay, you beat me with that time. You're not beating me that way again.
Somebody in the chat, I don't know if it was J2K or someone else, said that Ozzie still has an issue bending at the waist, because he's because of that height. Did you see any of that yesterday?
I don't agree with that. Because I look when I'm watching tape on offensive linemen, I really look for waist benders. I think his knee bend for a tall guy is actually pretty darn good. So, last week for the East-West, we're doing a bunch of offensive linemen now, and I had two really tall offensive linemen to do. One guy was 6'10", the other guy was 6'8". And when you get guys that tall, that's the first thing you look for. Are they stiff in the knees? Do they play upright? Or can they bend? And in the case of the two guys I did last week, they both could bend, and you can see it. And you can see their movement. And there's a lot of big guys that are like lurch, and they're stiff and robotic. And Trapillo's not that way. I mean, he first regular season play time. Now, he had 5 snaps in the first game on special teams, but he didn't have, offensive snaps. But he got a lot of play time. He played over a half. He probably played half the second quarter and the whole second half. And I think all told, he played pretty good.
Yeah, indeed. So the running game, speaking of the offensive, the running game is still not firing on all cylinders. Do you think this is more of the offensive line play or the fact that our running backs are playing subpar right now?
It's a great question. Something that I anticipated we've been talking about, because you see a lot of stuff on social media. They got to go out and get another running back. Hey, guys, it ain't the running back. The Raiders went into that game saying we are going to stop the run and make Caleb throw. And that's what they do. And you got to give them credit. They did a hell of a job. And you notice how many times that Swift got hit by a back at the line of scrimmage or even behind the line of scrimmage?
Yep, I thought he was Ashton
Quite
Genty.
a bit. Okay, and that was all part of the defensive scheme for that team. And you don't have an offensive lineman on a back. That's just not going to happen. So it's really crowding the box, especially on rundowns in anticipation of what the play might be, and then trying to make something. And a back is only as good as the blocking. Now you can take, Genty. Genty had his best game. In fact, Genty has been really a disappointment until yesterday. But really yesterday, and I'm trying to be very fair with this, he had 3 plays. Besides 3 plays, he was average. The one game, and if you look too, he got nothing inside. It was all outside. Part of that's the defense fault. For not setting the edge, having a guy on the outside to contain and turn it in like the long run. There was no contain on that side.
That's so true. So a lot of people, That's the wrong shot. A lot of people in the chat are wondering what's going to be the offensive tackle situation when they get back from the bye. Obviously, we don't have a crystal ball, and I bet even the Bears coaches are discussing that and will make a decision as the week goes on. But if all 4 of the offensive tackles are healthy and ready to go, who do you think is going to be starting at left tackle and right tackle, and who do you think will be the swing tackle?
I'm guessing. Obviously, I think they'll make a decision sometime during the week. The players, I think by the rules, there won't even be a practice this week. Players get off. It might be something, walk through today or film session, and then the players get off. And I may be wrong on that, but I know they've changed the rules. Used to be you could practice 2 days during the bye week, but you can't do that anymore. So the coaches are going to be doing a lot of work. This week is going to be a lot of review of what they've done, what's gone good, what's gone bad, what do we get rid of, what do we add, that type of thing, but also looking at the personnel. And then my gut feeling is, at least for the Washington game, Wright's going to be back unless there's something really wrong with his elbow. Wright's going to be back at right tackle, and Benedict's going to be at left tackle, and Ozzy's going to be the swing tackle. That's my gut. You got to turn on your mic.
That would help. That's my gut says the same thing, Greg. And by the way, thank you to Edward for the $5 donation. He says the problem the offense had at the beginning of the game was no running game. Running game is the quarterback's best friend.
Right. But if the other team is taking away your running game,
mm-hmm.
you got to find another way to do it. And a lot of times you can augment the running game with the short passing game, and the short passing game becomes your running game.
And it appeared to me, and I have to go back to say this with great certainty, that Ben did not adjust for that until the second half. Those wide receiver screen passes, those short passing game, I think was used at least more effectively in the second half. And so perhaps the coaching staff could have done a better job of mixing things up to help that running game or just get the illusion of a running game, because those screen passes to wide receivers are often called an extension of the running game.
Now, I know there's a lot of people, like Swift isn't good enough. Swift had a hell of a fourth quarter.
Yes, he did.
You can't take that away from him. He was running hard. I'm going to go back. You only can get, I don't care how talented the guy is, if he doesn't have any blocking, he isn't going to go anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's on both. And that means they got to improve the run blocking.
Yeah.
They got the guys to do it. They just got to, and actually, when you go to the run game in the second half with the configuration they had with Ozzy at the right for yesterday's game, Ozzy at the right tackle and Bennett left tackle was better than Bennett at the right side and Braxton on the left side.
Do you think, given that the team has given Jonah Jackson a contract extension, does that exclude the possibility of him not being a starter? Danny Shinman has been saying that he thinks the best 5 guys would be having Darnell Wright at the right guard position, Ozzy Trapillo at the right tackle position, and then the left tackle position probably being Theo or Braxton. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I was thinking about that last night, to be honest. And is that a possibility going forward? And yeah, it is. I mean, you just got to look at how the contract is structured, because you don't want to lose money. But Jonah hasn't been a bust by any means.
Mm-hmm.
So he's had a few bad plays, but he hasn't been a bust. But they've all had some bad plays. It's still a new scheme that they're trying to, they're adding stuff every week. And you got into a situation. This is why I really appreciated what Ben said in the presser after, is that, the Raiders stunk the week before out in, and they played it in Washington. And then they come home. You knew they were going to try to have a bounce back game. Just like the Bears coming home from that shellacking at Detroit had a bounce back game. And they did. So, it's a tough league. And anytime you went on the road, especially when you go out to the West Coast, because you got a time change, you got a 4-hour flight, it's difficult. And it's, I'll tell you, I was going to mention this when Joe was on. What I think is the bet of the week next week. The Raiders played in Washington last week, back to the West Coast this week, and now they're back to Indianapolis next week. It's a shitload of traveling.
Yes. And Jaden Daniels will be back in at quarterback, so he might be a little rusty. That's a good bet there, Greg. Interesting. Lots of comments regarding the offensive line. I think, though, we'll move on because we're an hour in already. Caleb's accuracy, though, is still an issue. Now, I watch a lot of other NFL games. Accuracy, missing receivers is not just a Caleb Williams problem in the NFL. Just about every other quarterback has accuracy issues. But it does seem like, particularly early in the game, that Caleb, with all of the energy that's in the game and the crowd noise and so forth, it does seem that it affects his accuracy at times. Do you get that same sense?
I haven't really looked at it closely to say yay or nay on that. And could he be all hyped up at the beginning? The adrenaline's flowing and he's letting loose. It's a two-way street, Aldo, and that, part of it is the guy throwing the ball and part of it's the defense. And how good of a job are they doing covering the receivers? The one ball that ended up being an incompletion to Rome, and I think the third quarter, when they showed the end zone view, DJ was open along the sideline, but that's at the end of the play.
Yeah.
And but when the quarterback's getting ready to throw, now you got a couple seconds then, that one corner comes off of DJ and goes to the middle where more to the middle where Rome is. So was DJ really open? I got to see the whole play from the wide angle to see if that was really the case, because after the fact, it looks like, he kind of forced the ball into Rome when DJ was there, but that might not have been the case when he's reading the play.
Yeah. Let's talk about Cole Kmet, because that topic just came up in the chat. He made
not
some
his
nice
best
catches.
game.
Yeah, he made some nice catches, but he also had some.
He had a drop that would have put him in a goal line situation, and he had two key penalties.
Indeed. Well, and the ball thrown at the sideline that Kmet got both hands on, I think he should have caught that one too. So those two drops were really annoying. Now, I want to go back and look at the tape and give him credit or not credit for his blocking. I wasn't really focused on that during the game, and so that's a big part of the tight end's job, and he's usually average or above average with his blocking. So I don't want to bury him, but those drops were, and that penalty, as you mentioned, Greg,
there were two bad penalties, and I wasn't going to – the one drop was a bad drop. I got to re-see the other one to say if I agree with you or not. But the one, it was right here. That's a pro supposed to make that catch. It's real simple.
Yes,
he's getting paid for.
Absolutely.
Wasn't his best game. He'll probably be the first one to tell you it wasn't his best game. And, that's going to happen. But here's the important thing. Is that stuff like that happen? And I posted this earlier today. Said in the previous few years, games like yesterday, the Bears lose. They found a way to win yesterday.
That's right.
And I said, and it's because of coaching. That's the difference. And it's not just Ben Johnson. It's the entire coaching staff. They got a very good coaching staff. And so I think the coaching staff putting confidence in the players themselves, or helping the players' confidence, but also putting them in position with the way they're calling the game, to help them win, that they can overcome mistakes. And that's going to do, coming back from the mistakes they made, especially in the first half. And heck, on the final drive, they had a 10-yard penalty. They had a holding call on that, and they overcame it. So it's that, to me, is huge going forward, especially going into this next game against Washington.
Indeed. I'm surprised J2K is saying this, but he thinks Loveland will be the tight end one after this bye. That's not going to happen because of his blocking.
He can't line up at Y.
Yeah.
That isn't going to happen. I mean, he'll try to block, but he can't block the way you want him to block.
Yeah, you got to go with Komet and work on improving his mistakes. And if drops are part of his mistake, then he's going to get less play calls. He's going to.
I got. There's one thing I don't know if anybody caught it, and I was gonna. I'm watching the game live, and I didn't want to put it into reverse. They showed him, it was in the first half. I don't remember, but he was like walking down the sideline. He said he's not playing it. He's got a T-shirt on. It looked like there was something was on his left arm, but that he might have been holding something.
Oh, okay.
I don't know that. That's why I just looked at it and said, whoa, that's odd.
Jamal Lewis says about Loveland, he was a blocker at Michigan the championship year. We're not saying that he's a bad blocker.
Yeah, but you go back and you look at the tape, he's flexed out more and he's playing inside.
Right. Exactly.
And they played a lot of 12 personnel, but his role, he was, that year they win the championship, he's about 242 pounds on a 6'6" frame. That guy doesn't do blocking. He's not built like a blocker. He's built like a big wide receiver.
Yes, he is, indeed. All right, we got to turn our attention to the defense because they played so well. The turnovers. Let's start with Kevin Byard.
Well, they gave up some runs that they shouldn't have given up because it was contained. So it wasn't perfect, but the turnovers were outstanding.
Outstanding, yes.
I mean, you create 4 turnovers, you better win 100% of those games.
Somebody in the chat, it was D. Starren. Do you think the Bears were afraid to tackle Genty? I don't think they were afraid of anything.
No, you just got to hit them.
Yeah, exactly.
I'll tell you what, the one thing, and I'm not picking on Genty. Kevin Byard isn't a fast guy anymore. He's 30 years old.
Right.
Okay, and he was like a 4.55, 4.57 when he came out. He was pretty much running, that old 30-year-old man, pretty much running stride for stride with Genty. Genty never ran a 40. So I wonder, how fast he really is. He's strong as hell now.
Yeah, he certainly is.
He's got a low center of gravity, and you got to hit and rack him up. I mean, he's like a 6 foot, 225 pound guy, even though he's 5'8".
Indeed. Ben said after the game that Ashton is compactly built, and that's what makes him difficult to tackle. I mean, it is. He almost reminds me. Would Emmitt Smith be a good comp for him, Greg?
I think he's bigger than Emmitt.
Okay.
Same height. Genty, if you've seen him, I mean, just in shorts and stuff, he's put together now. He's a strong dude. I mean, he has the one big run, and I was worried a little bit about his pass catching. He catches 2 passes for 2 touchdowns yesterday, and one was a pretty good adjustment. So that part's good. But you gotta square up and hit him, and when you hit him, you don't just hit him, you got to wrap. Because if you don't wrap, he's going to break the tackle. It's real simple.
Yep. Has this always been an issue in the NFL since you've been associated with the league? I don't see defensive players wrapping up guys as much as I think. It's been an issue
since they stopped practicing tackling in practice because they never tackle anymore. And so guys hit. I see it in college. And it bothers because there's guys in college that they go for the knockout punch.
Yeah.
They want to have the big hit, and it does nothing because they're not wrapping there. When I was playing football, that's like every day. hit and wrap, hit and wrap, hit and wrap. The guy isn't going anywhere if you wrap him up.
Mm-hmm. I do want to get back to the offense just to get this question from Swanky, which I think is an interesting one. Worried about the Bears, that the Bears may have mismanaged their running back depth. Swift isn't a 16 to 20 touches guy physically. I hope Monangai gets a heavier load against Washington. Your thoughts?
Actually, I thought Monangai they just didn't have an opportunity to run. I think the plan was to run him more. He ran, actually, the few carries he ran pretty good. So I agree with that. There's people down on Swift. I'm not down on Swift.
Mm-hmm.
I think Swift tries to play his ass off.
Yeah.
And I'm going to go back, and the fans think one thing and the coaching staff feels another. The coaching staff felt that they needed another running back. Now, Britton Brown, or whatever his name is, has ran pretty good in the preseason. They've had opportunities to bring him up to the varsity.
Yep.
They don't do it. Okay? And there's been guys on the street. They don't sign them. And they don't sign them because and people can blame Poles, but Poles isn't going to sign somebody that, we've talked about this before. If the coach doesn't want the guy, you're not going to sign the guy.
Right.
And so, he's happy with the players they have. So, people can sit and bitch all they want, and which is fine. That's their prerogative. But, you're really peeing in the wind because the guy who's making the decisions isn't listening.
Yeah. Roshan Johnson did not get a touch. He played special teams.
He hasn't had a touch all year.
He hasn't. That's right. So Sports Chicago Style wants to know what happens to Rojo when Travis Homer returns. He should be available against Washington.
Well, he only can bring back, I think, 8 players off injured reserve.
Oh, that's right. There is that limitation.
Okay. So, and they are, at least from what I understand, they're going to hold. They haven't brought anybody back yet. They can start. Theoretically, you can bring somebody back today if you want. 4 games are up.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody they bring back now won't be done until Saturday or Sunday of next week. The day, like the day before they play Washington.
Mm-hmm.
Why show your hand before you have to? But Homer to me would be further because he's not going to touch the ball anyway. He's a special teams guy. Unless you really need him on teams, why are you going to bring him up? Booker, right. You need brought up. That's the one that's probably the most important right now. Let me see if I got the roster here. Who's on IR that can come up now? Okay, well, Deion Hankins was put on before. Amagaji hasn't been on long enough. Booker can come up. Obagbinia can come up. And that's it right now. And the only one that I expect to be brought up out of that is Austin Booker.
Okay.
Unless for some reason he's not ready to go yet.
Mm-hmm. Do you agree with Levante here when he says hitting and wrapping does cause more injury to players now more than ever? Booker got injured on a play where he wrapped the player up on special teams. To me, it seems like technically that's the way to avoid injury. You don't want to lead with your head and possibly cause.
I don't agree with that thing. He got hit in the knee on that play. It was on the opening kickoff of the second half. And he got hit in the side of the knee.
Booker
did? He sprained his MCL.
Okay. Yeah. So I don't know. I still think, technically the way I was taught to tackle and I think the way NFL players are taught to tackle is to wrap them up. That's the best way for your own safety. So I don't know, Levante. Let's move on.
Players got into this heat-seeking missile thing, And then the colleges, to counter that, started with the targeting thing because they're always leading with the top of the helmet. I have never made a tackle in my life because I played a lot on special teams.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm too afraid I'm going to break my neck if I put my head down like this when I'm going to hit somebody.
Yes, exactly.
Keep your head up and wrap. Hit and wrap. Why would you put your head down and it's really beyond me. Some of the stuff, it's like you should say it just once. I've only told never put your head down. Keep your head up.
Yeah,
I never had to be told again.
Yeah, that is too precious to mess around with. J2K wants to know, can take some speculation as to what might happen in terms of changes for this team after the bye. Who gets benched and who gets more playing time?
The only one I think is I've been saying it most of the year. Braxton may be out. I don't know why, unless he got hurt. I don't know why he wasn't playing on. Nobody said anything. Maybe when Ben has a presser later today, somebody will ask the question.
Mm-hmm.
I like that he waits till about 3:00 to do it.
Yeah,
because by then he's already watched all the tape and whatever, and I'm sure he'll give the plan for the week of what they're going to do. But it's. I'm kind of surprised nobody asked that in the post-game presser.
Yeah.
And I don't think anybody got hurt yesterday.
No,
but there was nothing about that in the post-game presser either.
Mm-hmm. Indeed. People are calling for more Manangai after the bye, and we might see that. The issue here is that they got to move the chains. You don't get pickup first downs. That's going to limit what Ben Johnson can do in terms of player usage, player substitution, and so forth. So you got to move the chains. I don't have the stats in front of me. I don't know how many first downs they picked up yesterday, but they certainly didn't pick up.
No, I don't have the stats. I got their roster here.
Oh, I might have it. They certainly did not pick up enough in the first.
I'll tell you what they did do. They could, and it's one of the reasons why I felt confident they were going to win. Is they controlled the clock. They had like a 3 or 4 minute advantage in time of possession.
Let's see. Possession, Bears 33 minutes and 10 seconds, Raiders 26:50. And in terms of first downs,
it was more than I thought.
Yeah. And in terms of first downs, the Bears had 16 and the Raiders 17, but I would bet in that first half, they probably had 3 or 4, and they got most of those first downs in the second half.
I know going into that fourth quarter, and they had to have a drive to win. That's one of the things that was on my mind is that the Raiders defense has been on the field a long time. And this is where it's going to show. And that's exactly what happened. The run game was better in that last drive than it had been the whole game. And, they were able, even after a 10-yard penalty for holding, they were able to sustain the drive and get the touchdown.
Indeed. We have to talk about, and thank you, OKC, for bringing it up. I know people did it earlier. Tyreek Stevenson is balling. He is playing really, really well. And then Kyler Gordon is probably going to return after the bye. That's going to be so.
Oh, that's right. That's the other one that he's not on IR, so that's why you didn't. He's been active. He probably should have been on IR.
Yeah,
because he missed 4 games, but. Yeah, you're right. The only thing I'm wondering is, are they going to play Gordon outside or at the nickel? Yeah, because Jalen's gone, and you want another good guy outside. Yeah, and is he would that give you your best combination outside?
Right. And against Washington, they have Terry McLaurin, but he's hurt and may miss that game. So,
well, that's still 2 weeks away. So,
yeah, true. It's a lot of time.
Who do they play next week? They play somebody.
Let's take a look at what the Washington Commanders schedule looks like. Washington Commanders schedule. I actually spelled it correctly. They are playing the Chargers in San Diego. Jim Harbaugh is going to be really pissed off and really late to the Commanders.
They're out 2 tackles now. Alt got hurt yesterday.
Yeah, they're in trouble. They're in big time trouble.
So that, but even losing those guys, they were still in the game.
Mm-hmm. Indeed. Harbaugh after the game said he was concerned about the amount of times Justin Herbert is being hit. And one of the offensive linemen said when he was told that, he says, yes, it's very concerning. We've got to do something about that. So the offensive line has to step up despite the fact that they are injury riddled because Herbert is getting knocked around over there. And
I mean, if who knows, I don't know what the severity of Alt's injury is.
Yeah.
There was a left tackle that was traded today, a backup for the Texans, went to the Browns. So, that could start. You've got a bunch of tackles hurt around the league.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And there you could see some movement coming up over the next week or two.
Interesting. Given that Braxton is likely, I shouldn't say likely, but probably not going to start for this team. And you have been saying since before the season started that he could become a trade candidate. Do you see that possibility of trading Braxton Jones on the table now even more?
You got to feel confident that, and we saw the play, and I thought my own personal opinion is Ozzie played well at the left tackle. He wasn't playing as quick as they want him to play at the position. I understand that. So knowing that, you got to feel confident. You only move Braxton if you feel confident that if Benedict goes down, you can put Ozzie there and he'll be fine. And that's the caution. Now you've got Amagaji, but Amagaji's on IR for another 2 weeks at least. And so you gotta play it that way. Because right now, if somebody goes down, you don't have another guy. Exactly. Amagaji's the next guy, and it's when's he coming off IR?
And can you trust him at this point? We haven't seen enough to say.
Here's another guy that I thought played pretty decently in the preseason, but that's preseason. It's not like last year where he's being thrown to the wolves.
J2K, I think, has a great point here. Ozzie may need another full off season to flip his feet.
I don't disagree with that. And I think that's something that he probably works on literally every day. And he's a conscientious kid. He knows what he's got to do to get on the field. But I'm glad that he played yesterday. I'm glad that he showed fairly decent yesterday. Shamar Turner played fairly well yesterday. To me, it said something. They had Williams inactive and Shamar Turner active, which was a flip-flop. And, because they know the future of Shamar Turner.
Yeah.
Guy's got some nasty to him now.
He sure does. It's going to be fascinating to see what the roster looks like when they return back to action in week 6, particularly because so many of these guys that are injured should be healthy. Like Grady Jarrett, I know he's got a knee injury. We don't know the extent of the knee injury, but he'll probably be available to play is my guess. And so Shamar, there's going to be some interesting names active in that Monday night Washington game. That's going to be fascinating.
I'll say this: you won't know a damn thing until they line up on. You'll find out the inactive list. You'll find out who they bring up from injured reserve, and that might not happen until Saturday or Sunday because they don't have to say anything about it till Saturday or Sunday. But as far as who's playing and stuff, who's inactive, you'll find that out, hour and a half before kickoff.
90 minutes before a game, indeed. A lot of people are giving Gervon Dexter some heat, and Kay says Turner over Dexter. Do you see perhaps Dexter's the amount of snaps he gets is going to decline with the arrival of Shamar Turner?
Shamar, they play in a rotation. I don't know what the exact snap count is.
Yeah.
The guy who jumped out made some plays. I think especially that fourth down play when they were trying to get a first down before the field goal. Billings he went right through the center.
Yeah.
And hit Genty for like a 2-yard loss.
Yeah. I think, the rotation with particularly the middle of those defensive linemen is vital for them to play at their best, to keep them fresh. And when Billings is fresh out there, he's a force. He's a force. There's no doubt about it. Bruce Ollie Walter Jordan says there's too much hate going on for Gervon Dexter in the chat.
The fans here, they see a bad play and you got to watch the whole game and every single play because there's good plays too.
Yes.
But, it's like when a corner gets beat, that's the play you remember. But the guy might have played great the rest of the game.
Yeah. Yeah, and you also can't, particularly for the middle defensive linemen, you can't give too much credence to the snaps, because those guys, part of their job is to occupy blockers, and there is no stat for that. I wish the NFL would come out with stats where you can measure, what a guy like Gervon Dexter is doing when he's occupying 2 blockers and stuff like that. That's a more accurate way to determine if the guy's playing well.
Things, the defensive linemen, and I can tell you what I look for, like especially if I'm looking at a 4-3 defensive player in college versus a 3-4, because a 3-4 guy might be trying to stand up an offensive lineman and hold the point of attack and not penetrate. But in this defense, the same as last year, you don't want a 2-gap. You want to penetrate to disrupt. Doesn't mean you have to make the tackle. What you want to do is disrupt the play. And that's what you look for, guys and that's why they drafted Shamar Turner. Shamar Turner was very good at that at Texas A&M. Very quick off the ball. He can run. He can get penetration, especially, you're playing in a 1-gap scheme. You're playing in the gap. You're not 2-gapping anybody. Get off the ball quick. Get in on the other side of the line of scrimmage and try to disrupt the run game.
Indeed. And I agree with J2K here. He says Dexter is fine, but the issue is he isn't special. At least he hasn't been special yet.
I agree with that. He's not special. He's he's not a Pro Bowler.
Yep, indeed. By the way, we already picked on one of the sideline reporters a little bit. I want to pick on the announcers from yesterday's game. Did you have the audio up? Because I know sometimes you don't listen.
I never pay attention to it. To be honest with you.
Well, I'm glad you did not pay attention to it.
I have a way of being able just to tune it out.
Good for you. I got to develop that skill. Though I like
you know what it is? I had a bunch of kids, and I grew up in a house with a bunch of kids. You just concentrate, and I don't listen.
Yeah, that's good. I should listen more to the voices in my head than Adam Archuleta, because that guy was annoying the hell out of me, and the play-by-play guy as well, whose name I don't have in front of me. They were just.
I don't know who the play-by-play. I never saw him before.
So, yeah, he's been around for a while. He calls Lakers game. I did a little research on him. It just seemed like they were really hasty to complain about what the Bears are doing. They played so well last week against the Cowboys, and they look blah blah blah, and they're only down by 4 points.
Archuleta is about as good an analyst as he was a player.
I tweeted that out.
So,
indeed,
or at least at one time in his career he was a decent player, but not when he was here. That's for damn sure.
Sports Chicago Style has some breaking news. He says the rap sheet is reporting the Texans are trading Cam Robinson to the Browns.
So I already mentioned that.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
I said that there was the Texans traded a tackle to the Browns.
I'm sorry, I missed that. So there you go. it is out. I miss some of the stuff that's being said sometimes. Now there's a guy who is being talked about who is available for trade, and that is the cornerback, the long, lanky cornerback from the Seattle Seahawks. I think his name is, oh gosh, help me out, chat room, Woolen. He's a really good player, but apparently has dropped off this year. Somebody in the chat, help me with his name.
He was like up for rookie of the year.
Exactly. So
he's a big. I mean, he's like a 6'4", 6'3.5" corner.
Mm-hmm.
And he went to an FCS level school when he was playing. If I got it right, it might have been Sam Houston. But I liked him coming out.
Me too.
And, good ball skills. This is the group this is his third year. So Pete Carroll drafted him, but it's the same GM. Is it his third year or fourth year?
I believe this is his third year.
Yeah,
let me look it up. Seahawks, Woolen. Just saw it.
The head coach just doesn't want him. Why would you get rid of him?
Yeah, according to NFL Network report, other NFL teams are monitoring Seahawks cornerback Rick Woolen as a potential trade target. Woolen's inconsistent performance, a career low PFF. And several penalties that he has.
Shove it up to somebody's rear end.
Exactly.
They're great. They're terrible.
But some of the penalties that he's committed has made Mike McDonald, their defensive coordinator, lose some confidence in him. So it is a contract year for Woolen. So
if it's a contract year, it's his fourth year.
Okay, right. That would be his fourth year. And he is, Edward is totally right. I remember he ran a 4.2 or 4.3.
I'm going to look that one up. What is it? TARIQ?
His last name is Woolen, and his first name is Rick, RIQ.
RIQ. WO. How do you spell last name?
WOO.
I got it. Rick
Yeah.
Woolen. He
experienced mental lapses, according to one report.
This is his fourth year.
Yep. The Seahawks are
ran
not
4.26, 6'4" and an eighth. Yeah, 205, 33 and 5/8 inch arms, 4.26, 10'11" broad jump, 42-inch vertical. And where did he go to school? At Sam Houston, I think. No, UT San Antonio. So the same school as our guy. What's his name? Za Frazier.
Za, yeah. Who hopefully will come back with us next year. God bless him and whatever he's going through. Yeah, it's interesting because Woolen is, from what you just read about him, maybe a comp is the guy we already have, the former Cowboy, whose name I'm forgetting, who's also 6'4" and runs pretty quick. Our cornerback, geez, what happened to my brain? Nashawn Wright.
Yeah, but Nashawn was like a 4.5 guy, not a 4.26.
Okay, it's not quite as fast. Okay. Zay is pronounced Zay for some reason.
Whatever.
Thank you. All right. So let us talk now about the celebration that happened after the game. I got some video here. I did cut it down, so you will not see the game balls being presented to Bayard and Santos, but I wanted to share some of this with you.
Let me tell you something, man. That's a character win right there. Yes, sir. That is a character win. And it took all 60 minutes. Yes, sir. And you know what it took? It took belief. Yes, sir. It took belief that we were going to find a way. Because at the end of the day, gentlemen, that was two teams that were desperate. Yes, sir. Both teams. I give them a lot of credit, man. But you know who wanted just a little bit more? Yes, sir. Chicago Bears. Yes, sir. Good, better, bad. Never let it rest. Never let it rest. Good gets better. Good gets better. And it better get better. It better get better. Bears on three.
That's even better than last week.
Blackwell got a game ball too.
Yes, that's right. He
He
did.
gave out 3 game balls.
In fact, let's listen to Ben Johnson talk about Blackwell.
Jacob Bobenmeyer, the snapper. A.J. Cole, the holder. The kick is blocked.
He came through for us right when we needed it. And, I'm listening on the headset, and Coach Hightower, who does just such an incredible job with our special teams unit in all those phases, he's kind of narrating it in real time, and he's like, yeah, Blackwell's going to get this one for us. He's going to come through. And sure enough, it came to light just like he thought. And so, man, I was so proud of him. He's a guy that not only is a key cog of what we do on special teams, but a key contributor there as a backup in our DB room. And, that was huge for him.
He did a interview with Jodiak after.
Uh-huh.
And he said that the Bears long snapper told them that the long snapper for the Raiders moves the ball before he snaps it.
Yeah,
so
look at that.
They were watching that, and he said, I came close the first 2 times they kicked. So I knew I was going to get one.
That is wild. Eric heard the same thing. Thank you, Eric, for that. And what is the key besides getting that excellent jump? Is there any other thing that you tell?
Well, there's nobody on the edge. They had really 2 on the outside.
Mm-hmm.
Can you play that again?
Sure.
You see the blocking? I mean, he was untouched.
Yeah, they don't have the audio too, so I'll stop it right afterwards.
Jacob Bobenmeyer, the snapper. A.J. Cole, the holder. The kick.
Yeah. You see that?
So the corner guy blocked one guy to the inside, and they let him go.
Yep.
And he got the block.
And as soon as he's past that blocker, he adjusts and starts running almost parallel to the line of scrimmage.
Yeah, you call it flatten. You want to flatten your angle so that you're getting, you're getting it right after it comes off the foot.
Mm-hmm.
You got to get it just right, otherwise the ball's going to be up over your hands.
I'm really happy for Hightower that happened, because Hightower has had some bad luck. I'll put it that way.
But, I'm going to say this, though. The kick return coverage was, they shouldn't even been in a position to kick the damn field goal. They gave up like a 45-yard return or 42-yard return on the kickoff, and they gave up some other long returns on the kickoff. So
yes, indeed.
That's got to improve.
Yep, indeed. So Last says it's now on tape, so people are probably going to be blocking Blackwell moving forward.
Probably, but then you just scheme it up and try to block it from the other side.
Right. I think that what will happen if it's a long field goal and the trajectory of the ball is going to be low because it's a long field goal, then yeah, he has to be accounted for. But if the kicker can get the ball up in a hurry, then there's no way somebody on the outside is going to get to the ball. Is that safe thinking there?
Yeah.
Okay, look at that. I made a good football point for once in my life. Hey, I see Swift Sports Network somewhere. No, somebody's just mentioning him, saying that Swifty Scales. What is that? Swift Sports Network. Scales retired. Oh yeah, he's retired and came back, right? Scales did. Anyway, that being that, what's your schedule with Swifty? You doing the show this Friday?
This Friday.
Indeed, we'll be. Yeah, there he is. He's here. I know Swifty. He's doing work in the background while he's listening to us. He's always working.
Swifty is always working.
Yes, he is. One of the best in the business. If you are not a subscriber to the Swift Sports Network, then what is wrong with you? And you should also subscribe to the Barroom Network, because tomorrow we're going to have a very special program. And the details on that will be coming very, very soon. But Buffon 55 is off for the week, so I've got something special planned. Best way to stay on top of stuff is to subscribe to the channel here on YouTube. Follow my account on Barroom Network. Follow Greg at Gabe Football on X. Greg, any final thoughts before we pull the plug?
I'm kind of anxious to hear what Ben has to say later this afternoon.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I like it that it's later this afternoon.
Indeed.
Doesn't interrupt our show.
That's right.
But what their plans are for this week, and a lot of it, those they're going to be internal. We're not going to find out what they are until next week.
Right.
But that'll be interesting because I think you may see some changes a little bit schematically, on how they're doing things, because they've got 4 weeks of good tape, and now it's okay. We're getting in now to the rest of the season, and we got some winnable games coming up. I'll tell you what's tough, though, is that they're in this thing, they're playing like 4 out of 5 games are on the road.
Yeah, that's
including
the thing.
yesterday. I mean, look at this. You get you're at Washington, then you're home
against
and
New
then you're
Orleans.
away and away. I mean, so between the Raiders at Washington, home, away again, and to Baltimore, my God, what the hell's going on with them?
Yeah, and they may be without Lamar Jackson that week. We'll know more.
Well, that's a long way away. So, and then Cincinnati has just looked terrible.
Mm-hmm. Without Joe Burrow, a chance that we'll be seeing Ravens with a limited Lamar Jackson and maybe no Joe Burrow at all the following week 9. So that plays in the Bears' favor. So, if the Bears continue to progress, they should win some games here in the middle of the season.
Yeah, and then the Giants won their first game yesterday.
And Malik Neighbors is now out for the season, according to some reports.
Yes, he tore an ACL.
Wow.
But Dart played pretty good in his first start, ran a touchdown. If he plays pretty decent, even with the injuries they got there, he may save the head coach and general manager's job.
Wow. Well, the schedule now, as always, it starts to take a different complexion as the season goes on because of injuries and because teams not playing to expectations and some teams playing better than expectations. But right now, this schedule is looking kind of favorable to the Chicago Bears.
How about the game last night, Green Bay?
Yeah, how about that game? That was fun. Yeah, it was. What do you?
Now, I'll be honest. I fell asleep. I got an iPad Pro, so I put that on my bed. I lay down on my side and I was looking, and then all of a sudden I'm out. And I wake up and they're doing the post game show.
So you missed Parsons' biggest play because he was able to sack, and it was called a sack, but it was really a tackle. He was able to tackle or sack Dak while he was on his way into the end zone. He probably would have made it a touchdown as opposed to the field goal late in the game. Parsons, other than that, really was not much of an issue for the Cowboys to handle. What do you think about that trade now, 4 or 5 games in?
In all fairness, I haven't watched Green Bay hardly at all. Have any feeling? I know he hasn't set the world on fire. That's for darn sure.
Yeah.
The game, I'll tell you, the game that was a heartbreaker for the Colts. Did you see how one of the things that happened to them in that game?
No.
Their receiver they took a year ago, I think in the second round, one of the Texas wide receivers, who's a burner. He catches like a hitch pass, makes a swing, and he's running for the end zone, right? So he gets to about the 3-yard line, and he puts the ball out like this. And he drops the ball before he goes into the end zone.
Oh, my goodness.
It's called a touchback for the other team.
Wow.
That cost them the game.
That is wild. I'll have to look for that. Now that this show is over, I can sit back and take a look at what happened yesterday because I really didn't do that yesterday. I was so happy about that win. A lot of people
were watching the Ryder Cup too, right?
Oh my gosh! Thank you for bringing that up. What did you see of the Ryder Cup and your thoughts?
Thoughts on the Ryder Cup is my immediate thought is they got to find a better way to pick the U.S. team. I don't like. you qualify on points because the Ryder Cup is a unique competition.
Very.
And it's match play. It's all match play. When you're playing foursomes, you've got to, alternate shot. You got to match guys that have compatible games. Otherwise, you're dead in the water. But I think they got to, like, you look at the European team. 11 of their 12 members were on the team that won 2 years ago.
Wow.
The only difference was Sergio Garcia.
Wow. I did not know that.
And, they got their qualifying points too, but they don't have the overall depth that the U.S. has as far as the number of great golfers, but their elite are very elite. And one thing I tweeted out earlier in the week, I go, some people don't realize is these guys maybe are Europeans, but they live here. They went to school here. They're trained. They were trained here. Victor Hovland, who didn't play yesterday, he's from Finland or something, or Norway. Lives in Oklahoma. Went to Oklahoma State. Okay, the captain of the European team lives in Chicago and went to Northwestern. He has a home in Chicago and a home in Florida. Rory lives in South Florida. Lowry lives in South Florida. All these guys play on the regular U.S. tour. It's not like you go back 20 years, 25 years, and it's like you didn't know these players. You're seeing them for the first time or the first time in a couple of years when you're playing up against them in the Ryder Cup. These are the same guys you're playing against week after week after week.
Indeed.
I think that changes it, but I think they got to change. And the other rule I didn't like was, and it ended up not meaning anything, but it could have, was Hovland couldn't play yesterday. Why does he get a half point?
That rule sucks.
That was no, he can't play. He's out. You lose.
That's right. The first player out of those singles match on Sunday should now have to play another 18 when he's done, and that's the way it should be. You're giving a half point because the guy is injured. That's ridiculous.
Like I say, it ended up not meaning anything.
Right.
But what if the score was 14 or 14 and a half, 13 and a half, or 14 or something, tied 14.
Exactly.
14, that point would have made the difference between the U.S. winning or losing. So, granted, hey, they lost all the team competitions.
Yeah, indeed.
Be it best ball or alternate shot, they stunk.
And I just want to say,
that's where they got to get better.
The Ryder Cup is the absolute best golf. If anyone is interested at all in golf, watch the Ryder Cup. It happens every 2 years. The passion that these guys play for, the nationalism, playing for their country, the bond that they create for one another is some of the best teamwork you will ever see. Yes, in golf. How about that? And the other thing about it is that the President's Cup and some of these other team competitions pale in comparison to what happens at the Ryder Cup. It is really fantastic stuff.
Well, the President's Cup, they've only lost it once, and they usually blow out the international teams. But the international team, it doesn't have the depth. They got some pretty good players at the top.
Right.
But their overall depth isn't that strong.
Right. And the other thing I have to say is the way the New York fans treated Rory McIlroy is just abominable. They, making comments about his family and his love interest and so forth, and yelling and screaming while he's standing.
His wife is from Rochester, New York. I mean, she's a New Yorker.
Yeah, it's just gotten out of hand. They need to stop that. And I know the Europeans do it to Americans, but from what I heard, some of the stuff that was saying was well beyond the line.
Rory turned on one shot. This was on Saturday.
I saw that.
and can I have my one swear for the day?
Go for it.
He turned around and said, "Shut the fuck up."
That's right. And his teammate on Saturday, Henley, I think his name was so
Henley's
supportive.
on the US team.
What's the guy's name?
Lowry wasn't it?
Yeah,
No.
he hit the.
Yeah, they had Irish and Irish.
Yeah, he hit the final putt to win it for the Europeans. He also laid out a couple of F-bombs to the crowd, and frankly, the crowd deserved it. You know, you got to. The game of golf is sacred in that way that there are certain rules for spectators, and we should not cross them, even when it's as passionate as the Ryder Cup. But that's my rant for golf for the year.
Now we got to wait 2 years, and it's in Ireland in 2 years.
Yeah, let's go, Greg. Come on, let's get in our car.
I got to be alive for that first. Before I can say let's go, I got to still be here.
All right, you and me both, brother. All right, that is it for our show. Thank you, everyone, for watching live, and a special thanks to those who volunteered some dollars for us. Lutz, Maddie, as he always does every show. Edward, thank you, and really appreciate the donations you guys
one
made.
thing before we go.
Absolutely.
I wonder, last year the Washington game was the beginning of the end.
Mm-hmm.
The game was won, and they had, perfect example yesterday, where I said they lose a game like this last year or in previous years. I wonder the effect this game is going to have, or that game last year is going to have on the players this year.
Interesting.
Because it's in Washington again.
Yes.
And it's like, yeah.
Tyreek going back there. That's going to be fascinating.
Yeah. No, I just think it's an interesting side story to watch.
Absolutely. We'll be watching it and talking about it here on Gabriel Talks Football next week. You got a special guest for us next week, Greg?
Not yet.
He's working on it. I can tell. Look at that smile. He's got something special.
There's somebody I've been waiting on purposely that because I wanted to. He was busy before, and I just want to. I think it might be time to hit him up.
I think you're right. I think I know who you're talking about. Send me a text.
When we get off, you can tell me if I'm right.
All right. Thank you again, everybody. We will see you all very soon. Bye-bye.
See ya.